Good evening, everyone, and good afternoon to those joining us from WA. Thank you for joining us for tonight's information session for the National Regional Arts Fellowship. I'd like to acknowledge that we're calling in from Aboriginal lands across the country, each with their own languages, culture, and stories. Tonight, I'm calling in from the unceded sovereign lands of the Jara people. I recognise their continuing connection to country and pay respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I extend that respect to all First Nations people joining us on the call this evening. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. My name's Thea. I'm the Grants Manager at Regional Arts Australia. By way of an audio description, I am a Caucasian woman with long brown hair. Tonight I'm wearing a black and white striped button-up shirt. I'm joined by my colleagues, Ros Abercrombie and Laura Baker, who will be looking after the chat and the Q&A. I'll be sharing some slides with text on them tonight, and we'll read out the content of each slide. I'll also distribute the slides to you all after the session so that you can go back and reread them if you wish. Tonight's session is being recorded and will be published on our website. The session is also being Auslan interpreted. Thank you to our interpreters, Erin and Jody. To access the Auslan interpretation, you can press the interpretation button at the bottom of your Zoom window and select American Sign Language. Unfortunately, Zoom does not have an option for Auslan, but it is being interpreted in Auslan. In tonight's session, I'll be covering a bit of background about the program and the new application process, who's eligible to apply, what kinds of projects are eligible, and I'll share some examples of successful projects. I'll discuss the application and assessment process, and then we'll open up for questions. Please save your questions until after the presentation and then ask them using the Q&A function. A bit about the program. The National Regional Arts Fellowship is a strategic project supported by the Regional Arts Fund and delivered by Regional Arts Australia. The Regional Arts Fund is an Australian government program that supports sustainable cultural development in regional and remote communities in Australia. Fellowships provide guaranteed income for regional artists and arts workers to develop work, skills, networks, or research. In 2024, we're seeking fellowship proposals with a focus on economic, cultural, and/or environmental sustainability. We want to support activities that will help artists and practitioners develop sustainable careers. This might mean economically sustainable, for example, using fellowship funds to develop additional forms of income for your practice. You might use the funding to learn a new skill that might increase the commercial viability of your work. It might mean cultural or community sustainability. You might use the funds to spend time developing ideas in the community or undertaking consultation in order to ensure your practice is addressing a required need or supporting the community appropriately. Sustainability could also mean environmental sustainability. You might use the funds to spend time researching or undertaking training in new studio methods and developing sustainable production processes. You might use some of the funds to buy new equipment that is more environmentally friendly. You might do research into the ways that your practice can fight climate change or develop activities that support regional communities through the impacts of climate change. The National Regional Arts Fellowship aims to provide guaranteed income for artists and practitioners to build connections, generate exchange, strengthen the national network of regional artists, arts workers, and communities, and through doing so has 4 main objectives: to encourage and support sustainable economic, cultural, and environmental careers and/or artistic practices for regional and remote artists and art workers, support a diversity of art forms, career stages, cultures, and geographies, to generate strategic collaborative relationships for the benefit of arts and creative practice across the regional and remote arts sector, and to support quality and viability of artistic and cultural activity in regional and remote Australia. The program is delivered in 2 main streams. creative and professional development fellowships, and early career development fellowships. The Creative and Professional Development Fellowship provides $20,000 to regional artists and art workers to support creative practice or professional development with a focus on sustainability. In 2024, at least one Creative and Professional Development Fellowship will be designated for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander applicants, and at least one will be designated for deaf applicants and/or applicants with lived experience of disability. The Creative and Professional Development Fellowship is aimed at artists and arts workers who are established in their practice or career, who are ready to undertake research and development of their work, or who want to expand their practice through professional development opportunities or mentorships. In this round, 4 Creative and Professional Development Fellowships will be awarded with a total funding pool of $80,000. The Early Career Development Fellowship provides $10,000 to regional artists and arts workers who are in the early stages of their practice or career and have had less access to funding opportunities. It supports the development of creative practice or professional development opportunities with a focus on sustainability. In 2024, at least one Early Career Development Fellowship will be designated for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander applicants. We understand that everybody's career trajectory is different. Early career does not necessarily mean that you are young in age, however, for some it might be. We would generally consider an early career practitioner to be someone who is within the first 5 to 7 years of their practice, or who has had less opportunity to receive funding for their practice. You might be early career because you've been working on your practice part-time due to work or caring responsibilities. Alternatively, you may be early career because you've had to take some time away from your practice. There are no hard and fast rules, but we will want to hear from you about why you consider your practice to be early career. In this round, 2 Early Career Development Fellowships will be awarded with a total funding pool of $20,000. To be eligible for a fellowship, you must be a regionally based artist or arts worker. To determine eligible locations, the program uses the modified Monash model. You can scan the QR code on this slide or search for Health Workforce Locator and enter your primary address to determine if you're eligible for the program. Any location code from MM2 to MM7 is eligible. You must also have an active ABN to be eligible. This ABN must be registered as a sole trader to your name and location. The postcode registered on your ABN must match the primary address you enter into the Health Workforce Locator. The following applicant types are not eligible to apply: organisations, partnerships and trusts, employees directly involved in the delivery of the Regional Arts Fund, and recipients of a National Regional Arts Fellowship within the past 5 years. Eligible expenditure covers fees and wages, travel and accommodation, materials, venue and equipment hire, insurance, administration and marketing costs, disability access costs, and infrastructure or asset costs up to $5,000. These will only be considered where you can demonstrate that the purchase of assets is more cost-effective than hire. The primary intention of the fellowship is to provide you with income while you complete the activities. You should design your fellowship program so that you're able to sustain yourself while you complete the activities. Proposals that do not recompense artists fairly will have a lower chance of success. The fellowship is not primarily designed to top up funds for larger projects. Your proposal will have a higher chance of success if it does not rely on multiple external income sources. The National Regional Arts Fellowship is designed as an artist-led program. It supports the development of creative practice or professional development opportunities with a focus on sustainability. You can use the funds for any activity that will meet the objectives of the program. Some examples of eligible activities include studio development, research or training, residencies and exchanges, professional or skills development programs. In the following slides, I'll give a brief overview of 4 successful fellowship projects, which cover a variety of different project and art form types, including socially engaged community practice, a writing mentorship, a physical comedy and performance residency, and a visual arts studio development. This photograph is from Alex Wisser's 2020 fellowship titled Growing Connections, Strengthening Community in Drought. The image is captioned Movie Night, Kapiti Resilient Farmers, and shows a gathering of approximately 30 people in a rural landscape at dusk, sitting on fold-out chairs in front of an inflatable projection screen. Alex Wisser used fellowship funds to develop a research framework that would allow socially engaged artists to better communicate the outcomes of their work to participating communities, funding bodies, and government. The fellowship involved collaboration with 2 project partners and a mentorship. Alex partnered with Kapiti Valley Landcare through the Resilient Farmer Project and used this community-based work in the development of his research framework. The fellowship supported Alex to undertake deep community consultation with farmers experiencing drought. Upon the completion of the fellowship, Alex reported that this project not only allowed him to better understand the context of drought and disaster recovery, but it also gave him a better perspective on how the arts might uniquely contribute to community recovery and resilience. This photograph is from Haneen Martin's 2021 fellowship, which supported her to draft the manuscript of her debut book and undertake a mentorship. The image is captioned, I Hope I Ask, and shows a square piece of fabric pegged to a string with a background of lush greenery. The fabric is tie-dyed with bright yellow and has the words, I hope I ask the right questions, stitched on all caps black lettering. During her fellowship, Haneen undertook monthly consultations with her mentor over the course of a year as they worked on the shape and thematic approach of the book. Haneen also used this time to consult with her family members who feature in the book to understand the most culturally appropriate way to share their stories. Haneen reported that the support of the fellowship allowed dedicated time to focus on the project, and the mentorship built her confidence as an emerging writer. This photograph is from Anna Thompson's 2022 fellowship, which supported Anna to undertake a residency in New York City. The image is captioned Haute Coutures, Haute spelt H-A-W-T, and shows a warmly lit smiling person in an indoor setting. The person is wearing bold pink and black sparkly eye makeup and has a mass of colourful fabrics stacked on their head. The fellowship funds supported Anna's travel and accommodation costs. This multidisciplinary project explored the intersections of costume design, physical comedy, and participatory methods of performance creation, culminating in a performance at Mothership's Artist Salon. Anna reported that the fellowship provided a fantastic opportunity to gain a global perspective on clown teaching. Since returning to Australia, Anna has been sharing their learnings through community workshops across the Northern Territory. This photograph is from Anna Louise Richardson's 2022 fellowship titled The Good. The image is captioned, The Good, Artist Talk at the Condensory, Somerset Regional Art Gallery, Queensland. It shows the artist standing in a brightly lit white gallery with a microphone. She's standing in front of a very large charcoal drawing of a flower on the wall to her right and is pointing to it while speaking. The profiles of audience members watching can be seen in the foreground of the photograph. Anna Louise's fellowship supported her to undertake an extended period of studio development in preparation for a large-scale solo exhibition. Over the course of a year, Anna developed a significant body of new work, culminating in an exhibition and national regional tour. Anna used a portion of the fellowship funds to employ a studio assistant, as well as paying for childcare so that she could have dedicated time in the studio to complete the work. Anna reported that taking the time to focus on this body of work, deep engagement in the site visit, and working with a studio assistant meant that she had the time and money to make good work. The application process. We acknowledge that funding applications can be lengthy and take a lot of time and energy. The National Regional Arts Fellowship Program experiences a high demand and consequently has a relatively low success rate. Changing the application process is a direct response to feedback from applicants to the Regional Arts Fund and other Regional Arts Australia programs. We've heard requests that the burden of writing applications be lightened, especially for programs with a low success rate. As a response, this year we've changed the application process for the fellowship as follows. Step 1 will be an open expression of interest submission, where any eligible applicant may submit an expression of interest. Step 2 will be shortlisting. EOIs are shortlisted by an external assessment panel, and then an announcement is made to the shortlisted applicants. Step 3 will be an expanded proposal by invitation, where a selected number of applicants will be invited to submit an expanded proposal. Step 4 will be referees contacted. Removing the need for letters of support, RAA will contact referees directly for a testimonial for the shortlisted applicants. Step 5 will be assessment, where expanded proposals are assessed by the external assessment panel, and followed by step 6, announcement, where successful fellows are announced after due diligence checks are completed. Applications are invited in the form of written responses or an audio-video upload. All applications must be submitted via the online form unless alternative submission is arranged with Regional Arts Australia. If you cannot access the online application form, we will accept applications in other formats, including Auslan, audio, video, printed, dictated, electronic, and handwritten formats. Please contact us to discuss alternative submission formats well before the due date. So stage 1 of the application process is the expression of interest. The expression of interest is designed for applicants to pitch a general idea to the assessment panel. Expressions of interest do not need to provide any confirmed partners, activities, or timelines. There is no budget submission. Expressions of interest will be assessed on the impact that the proposed activity will have on the applicant's practice or career. We want to know how the fellowship activity will change your practice or career for the better. Tell us how your proposed activity is going to make a significant difference to your future and how you'll build your practice or career based on your learnings throughout the fellowship. Effective examples of impact will provide a clear argument for why it is important that we support you at this particular moment in time. The EOI process will allow you to pitch your idea to the assessment panel without having to chase down letters of support, confirm partners or venues, write a timeline, or get quotes for budget lines. Your EOI will get assessed against the guidelines and against other applicants, and a small number of applicants will get shortlisted. A selection of applicants will be shortlisted and invited to submit a more detailed proposal. Expanded proposals will be assessed on the viability of the proposed project and will require confirmed partners, a project timeline, and a budget. At this stage of the process, we'll contact the referees of the shortlisted applicants. We'll ask for a short written testimonial from each of the referees listed, and they'll have up to 30 days to submit that. The shortlisted applicants will also have 30 days to submit their expanded proposal. We anticipate that this application period will take place from around the 29th of March to the 28th of April, so it might be worth noting those dates in your diary in case you are shortlisted. The expanded proposal will focus on the viability of the project. The process has been designed so that by this stage, you would be submitting a proposal very similar in length and planning to what would normally be expected in a single stage application process. The difference is that you will have a much higher chance of success, around 25% compared to 5%. When assessing the viability of your project, assessors will look at your experience in your field, the strength of the project outcomes, the need for funding support, whether the timeline is achievable and realistic, and whether the budget demonstrates value with the funds. The assessment process. Regional Arts Australia will assess each application against the eligibility criteria, and then a panel of external assessors will assess the eligible applications for shortlisting. The same panel will assess the expanded proposals for final selection. Applicants to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander applicant stream will be assessed by at least one Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander assessor, and applicants to the stream for deaf applicants and/or applicants with disability will be assessed by at least one individual with lived experience of deafness and/or disability. Each eligible application will be assessed on its merits based on how well it meets the criteria, how it compares to other applications, whether it provides value with relevant money. At the EOI stage, assessors will pay particular attention to how your proposed project meets criteria 1, 2, and 3, impact, reach, and support and partnerships. At the expanded proposal stage, the focus will be on criterion 4, quality and viability. We strongly recommend that you read the guidelines and pay close attention to the assessment criteria. Applications that clearly address the assessment criteria will have a much higher chance of success. The assessment criteria can be found in section 6 of the guidelines. You can download the guidelines by scanning the QR code on this slide or by navigating to the National Regional Arts Fellowships 2024 page on Regional Arts Australia's website. I'll also circulate a copy of the guidelines to you all after this session. Thank you all for listening to my presentation. We'll now spend the remainder of the session answering your questions, so please send them through using the Q&A function. The answers to all of your questions will be published on the Fellowship's FAQ page, and I'll circulate the link to that document to you all once it's been updated. If you think of a question after tonight's session, please feel free to get in touch with me via the contact details on this slide, which read Thea Jones, that's me, Regional Arts Australia Grants Manager, email rafmanager@regionalarts.com.au, phone 0447 204 189. My work hours are 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Wednesday and 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Thursdays and Fridays. Please note that I'm based in Victoria and work during Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. It's also important to note that support with the application process will not be available after 12 p.m. on Friday, the 8th of March. So if you have any questions, please do send them through before then. All right, well, we'll open up for questions now. I'll just stop sharing my screen. All right.
You might need to take a breather and a drink of water, Thea.
Yeah.
I do have 2 questions here.
Yep.
The first one is, I have a feeling I probably sit between the early career and creative and professional categories. What's the best way to determine the most appropriate stream to apply for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess it would depend on your idea primarily, because the early career development fellowship is less money. It's $10,000 compared to $20,000. So if you feel that you sit somewhere between the two, I would think about the scope of your proposed project, the scope of the outcomes, and how you think they're going to line up against some of the other people who will be applying in those streams, and yeah, consider which stream is going to be best for your project, depending on those factors.
We have another one. Can collaborating artists apply, or is it only for individuals?
Collaborating artists can apply, but the payment will only go to one of the artists. So the payment of the fellowship will go to one person that has a registered individual ABN, but you can certainly apply to collaborate with someone else. You will just build that into your proposal, and if it gets shortlisted, your budget submission will include payments to that other collaborating artists. But our grant agreement will be with one of you. And so one person should submit the application and the funds for that fellowship will be split.
We just have a question asking for the timeline for grant activity outcomes.
Yep, so the fellowships will take place starting 1st of July 2024, and they will be completed by the 30th of June 2025. So all fellowship activities will need to take place within that financial year timeframe. Any activity, any proposal where the activity has already commenced prior to that date will not be eligible. So you will need to, your proposal will need to be for a project that is starting after the 1st of July 2024.
Mm-hmm. A question, are artist collectives eligible? It's along the lines of collaborating.
Yeah, similarly to collaborating, yes, but the person signing the grant agreement will need to be an individual.
Mm-hmm. A lot of coming through now.
Yeah.
It's a good one. Do you have the number of applicants that have applied in previous years, just to give everyone an idea of the
Yeah,
competition?
previous rounds it's been between 60 to 100 applicants. So we're anticipating probably at the higher end of that number for this round. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Someone's asking if projects can be international.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the examples that I shared was from someone who used the funds to travel to New York and undertake a residency. Yep, that's absolutely eligible. Projects can take place anywhere. It's just the applicant has to be regionally based.
And if someone wants to talk to you about a specific idea, is that possible?
Look, you can give me a call, but Regional Arts Australia isn't assessing these applications, so it's difficult for me to say whether an application is going to be competitive or not. I can advise you whether it's eligible and what you should focus on, but I'm not, because we're not assessing it, it's hard to give advice around what a competitive application is going to look like. Generally, my advice to applicants is to just really make sure that your project is aligning with the assessment criteria. That would be my number one piece of advice is look at the assessment criteria and make sure that your project aligns. Maybe even show it to someone else, like a peer, friend, someone who has nothing to do with the arts, and ask them if they think that your submission is aligning with the objectives of the program.
Mm-hmm. We have a question. Can the payment be received by an auspicing organisation?
No. To be eligible, you need to have a registered ABN.
If you are applying for a residency, should you ensure that you have been accepted before applying for the fellowship grant?
Not necessarily at the EOI stage. We don't require you to have things locked in. If your proposal is that you want to undertake a residency and this is the place where you would like to undertake it, that's fine for the EOI stage. By the time it gets to the expanded proposal stage, your application will be a lot more competitive if you do have things locked in. So that's, I guess, just something to juggle considering the timeframes of the application periods.
Someone's asked if you have received a different grant in the past, does this exclude you from the emerging artist category, given there is an emphasis on those who have not had opportunity?
It doesn't exclude you if you consider yourself to be early career, and you can provide us with some reasoning for that. And having received grants in the past won't exclude you, but it might make you less competitive in that round. Like you mentioned, the emphasis is on people who have had less access to funding opportunities. So that would just be worth you considering. Yeah, the reasons that you consider your career to be in its early stages, and providing us with a good argument for that.
Say another question. What is the estimated time it takes to sit down and put a proposal together? I just have someone wanting to work out if they can afford to take the risk of painting time towards the application process.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this is why we've changed it for this round. The expression of interest is a maximum 1,000 words or a 5-minute audio video upload. So it really depends on your level of experience with writing grants, how long that's going to take you. But our reasoning is that a lot of the time that applicants spend writing applications is locking down timelines, chasing up quotes for budgets, chasing up letters of support, all of those things that we're not asking for at this expression of interest stage. The main focus will be an argument on the impact that this project's going to have on you. So it's hard for me to give like a solid number of hours that it would take you to write that, because it's really different for everyone. But I guess I can say that we've really tried to reduce that this time, recognizing that the success rate for lots of grants is fairly low.
Got a question asking for some information on the composition of the assessment panel. So you mentioned that an Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander assessment panel member will be on the dedicated associated stream, but will there also be an Aboriginal and/or Torres Strait Islander assessment panel member on the assessment panel of the broader fellowship?
Yes, so all of the panel members will assess all of the applications. So yes, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander assessment panel member will assess all of the applications when it gets to the expanded proposal stage. Similarly, the panel member who has lived experience with disability or is deaf will also assess all of the applications once it gets to the expanded proposal stage. At the shortlisting stage, depending on how many applications we receive, it may be split across the panel, so that everyone's application will get read by at least 3 people though. Yeah.
And there's some comments just thanking us for the changes to the application process. I'm not quite sure what Tom is asking with this question, so please ask for clarification if it's needed. The question is, do the criteria need to be addressed in response to, or can they be addressed in the responses in general?
Yeah, so there is just one sort of, I think one of the fields asks you specifically to talk about impact, but then your other responses, you're just asked to consider the assessment criteria generally in your response, and it will be like a single response answer at the EOI stage. And then at the expanded proposal stage, we'll ask you to more specifically respond to each of the assessment criteria.
Will we be providing any feedback on unsuccessful applications?
We will provide feedback to applicants who are shortlisted and come through to the expanded proposal stage, but due to the numbers of applications that we're expecting at the EOI stage, we aren't going to be able to provide individual feedback for EOIs. I will compile some general feedback from the panel and distribute that to all of the applicants, but no individual feedback for EOI stage.
Someone's asked, if I wanted to do a big lap of Australia to engage with communities, is in-kind contribution of some of the travel costs competitive?
As I mentioned before, at the EOI stage, there is no budget submission. We just want to know generally what you'll be spending the fellowship funds on. If your application proceeds to the expanded proposal stage and you submit a full budget, that's when, yes, in-kind support is going to help the competitiveness of your application. That said, the focus and the main priority of the fellowship is to support the applicant to undertake a project. So I suppose in the framework of the fellowship, lots of external sources of income and heaps of in-kind support aren't going to be as useful as they would be with a general funding project proposal. We are much more interested in supporting you to undertake a project rather than contributing to a massive project that's probably going to go ahead anyway.
Got one person asking if it's possible to apply for multiple projects, for an example, an individual application and an application for an artist-run initiative, but with the same contact.
Technically you could. I would suggest that it would not be as competitive, and I would probably choose one project to focus your energy on. I'd also consider it would be a question of whether a project that is going to an artist-run initiative would be eligible, because the fellowship is not intended to support organisations, it's intended to support individuals to undertake projects. So I would just consider, yeah, which of those projects holds the more value to you and which one you want to put the most energy into. But then I would also suggest potentially giving me a call to figure out if an application for an artist-run initiative would actually be eligible.
That's all the questions I've got at the moment.
I actually have one that I've answered first in the chat and it's come back.
Yeah.
So the question is about auspicing.
Mm-hmm.
So if an artist or an individual is auspicing an Indigenous elder,
mm-hmm.
And are they able to sort of auspice them? They've been working together for 22 years. The auspicing agency may not be regional, but the artist that they'll be auspicing is.
Okay. Look, generally we don't allow individuals to be auspiced unless they're under 18 years of age. it might be worth just shooting me an email with that specific question so that I can look at the exact parameters around your proposal. It's hard to say without knowing exactly what the situation is. So potentially, yeah, send me an email or give me a call so we can chat about the specifics of that. But in general, we don't allow individuals to be auspiced, and we require people to have an active ABN.
Thank you, and I think that's a thank you for the chat, and I think they'll probably be in touch to chat with you.
Fantastic.
It's all clear on the Q&A and the chat front from what I can scan. Laura, all good your end?
Yes, same.
All right. Well, in that case, maybe we'll just wrap it up a little bit earlier. Like I said, if you think of any more questions after tonight, please feel free to shoot them to me in an email. I will write up all of the answers to the questions that we've just been through and add them to the FAQs page. And I will shoot you all around an email over the next couple of days when that's been updated, and I'll send you the slides from tonight's presentation as well. This has also been recorded, so after we do a little bit of tidying up and editing, we'll publish that on our website and shoot you all around a link so you can go back and rewatch anything. Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you to our interpreters. Thank you to my colleagues for looking after the chat. And thanks to everybody who's joined us tonight on the call. We're looking forward to seeing all of your applications come through. Have a lovely evening.